64 and 36 for a 64% hit rate. That's my record over the last 100 NFL picks. And today I'm going to give you my predictions for the games of the week. And if you like this format going forward, like my whole research process in real time, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll start doing this for every game starting next week. You're also going to get access to my model for best anytime touchdowns for each game along the way, as well as my confidence level for each game as well. And thanks again to DraftKings Pick 6 for sponsoring this video, but more on that later. All right, let's dive into game number one. And the first game that I want to talk about is going to be Eagles and Giants. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the overall game environment. The Eagles are 7-point favorites, 43.5-point total. The Eagles are also the second slowest team in the NFL over the last 3 weeks. The Giants are top 10 in plays per game, so we'll see what happens with this pace if they start to slow down the Giants a little bit. Eagles probably get the efficiency edge here, so that's something that I'm definitely going to be paying attention to. In terms of the matchup dynamics in general, the run edge is pretty clear. The Giants allowed the third most yards per carry to running backs over the last 5 games. The passing edge, the Giants play more man coverage, fourth most, and Hurts has a 9.0 yards per attempt versus man. So it's something that we're going to be watching again. Maybe it's another great spot for Hurts. We'll see. Red zone, the Eagles have the second best TD rate in the NFL at 76%. But let's get into some picks, touchdown scores, all that good stuff, and kind of what I think is going to be happening in this game that's relevant for you guys. So if we were to just, I don't know why that's happening. If we were to move this down a little bit as we go, I really like Jalen Hurts in this game. I like his passing yards and I like his attempts. The Giants blitzed 18% of snaps. That's the second lowest. So that's a situation where I think he's going to have more time, and when he's kept clean, we see the yards per attempt really spike, especially last week against the Vikings. Higher attempts and yards, those are the ones that I'm looking at for Jalen Hurts in this game. Devonta Smith is another one that I think is really interesting. Receiving yards, longest reception as well. This is a heavy man coverage matchup, so the Brown hamstring injury might also raise his target share. Higher receiving yards, long reception, those are the ones for Devonta Smith that I think really stand out. And Dallas Godert, if we really don't have Brown in this game, we might see the targets condense a little bit. The Giants also allow the fourth most yards per target to tight ends since week 5, so I really like the receptions number for Dallas Godert. On the other side, the one that I'm really focused on is Cam Scadabo. So rushing plus receiving, also receptions is the best numbers that I was able to find. Eagles run success defense ranks bottom 3. They also have 6+ targets in 3 straight road games for Cam Scadabo, so he's being used in the passing game and in the receiving or in the run game. So really like him to continue to be heavily involved. I like the rushing plus receiving or receptions numbers for Cam Scadabo. In terms of touchdowns, let's talk about touchdowns in this game. So what I want to do in this part of the video is I want to give you who I think is the most likely to score first. And to me, I think that's Jalen Hurts. I know it's the revenge game for Saquon. Saquon's probably a great option as well. But if we're just looking at my touchdown model, I do have him slightly ahead of Saquon. I think I have Saquon at 0.69. I think Philly is just going to continue to control the goal line touches. I think the higher likelihood play is Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. My long shot TD in this game is Cam Scadabo, 0.59% of his, or I guess 0.95 projection of touchdowns in this one. So still relatively high, really balanced role receiving and rushing. Also the red zone usage, really like Cam Scadabo in this game. Those will be my 2 touchdown scores. And overall game confidence, this is something I want to give you guys each game that I break down as well. I think the Eagles start fast through the air. The Giants chase them underneath. And then the Hurts clean pocket thing and low blitz rate, I think is really big for his overall passing production in this one. And then the man coverage splits are obviously really strong for Devonta Smith and Dallas Godert. So I think that they'll be open to kind of make some plays downfield yet again. The pace is the one that is a little bit concerning for total volume in this game, but I really like the way that the matchup shapes up. I'm going to give it an A. Since we're always talking about making picks, I'm teaming up with DraftKings Pick 6 to give new DraftKings customers a deal that you won't want to miss for Week 8. When you play $5 or more with your first paid Pick 6 entry, you'll get $50 in bonus picks instantly. That's right, play $5, get $50 in bonus picks to keep building your slips and take your shot at big payouts. Just download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, sign up using my promo code HOLKA, and start playing today. If you've been thinking about trying Pick 6, now's your time to get in. Just use my code HOLKA to sign up, and all new DraftKings customers can play $5, get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Let's build some slips. Let's go to the next game. I think this game will be fun. Bears at Ravens, another 1 p.m. game on Sunday. The game environment in general, Baltimore -6.5. The total is sitting at 50.5. So really high total here. Chicago ranks middle of the pack in plays per game, but also has gone run heavy 46.8% of the time, also out of the bye. Baltimore runs one of the league's slowest tempos, so that's something to keep in mind. 54.2 points per game. Maybe that was a little bit because of the injury to Lamar Jackson. Maybe that's how they want to play. We'll see. Chunk yardage early is something that we're definitely seeing, and they've been really effective and efficient on first down. So I'm expecting more of like a methodical, explosive Ravens offense against a turnover-reliant Bears defense. Matchup dynamics. So what overall are we looking at here before we get into the players? I think on the running game, the Ravens lead the NFL in explosive run rate, 17.9% of carries, 10 plus yards. The Bears also allow 7 yards per play on first down, which is one of the worst, and a 6.1 yards per carry to running backs before the week 6 bye. So I think this is where the Baltimore ground game starts to get back on track here. And I think that this is potentially a breakout spot for Derrick Henry and the offensive line getting healthier, the team getting healthier in general. On the passing side, the Bears allow a 71.5% completion rate, 29th in the NFL, 8.7 TD rate. So we really like Lamar in this spot. When not pressuring, opponents score on 11.4% of dropbacks. Massive efficiency spike if Lamar returns, and it looks like he's going to be. Red zone edge. So Chicago defense allows 3.23 points per drive without takeaways, 29th. So the Ravens can kind of convert those short yardage through either Lamar or Henry. I think it's going to be basically an advantage inside the 20 for the Ravens, and that's going to be shaping up really nicely for points. In terms of players and picks that I like in this game, let's walk through it. Lamar Jackson shouldn't be a surprise here. The Bears are 29th in completion rate allowed, 27th in yards per attempt, TD high, a league high TD rate allowed. So Ronnie Stanley returning, obviously that improves the pocket stability as well. So if Lamar plays, I think clean pockets could lead to more deep shot efficiency, more efficiency for this offense in general. And they're obviously playing pretty desperate at this point. So higher yards and attempts were the ones that I was looking at for Lamar. If you aren't going to go with Lamar, I really like Derrick Henry in the spot. Rushing yards is the one that I'm focused on. Stanley active, Lamar back. Henry's averaging a much higher yards per carry. The Bears also are still a bottom tier versus the first down runs as well. So I really like that. Higher rushing yards for Derrick Henry. On the other side of this game, Swift is someone that I think is getting a little bit disrespected. Let's make sure you guys can see this here. He's getting a little bit disrespected. League best explosive run rate, 16.9%. That's a high number. 53.9% of the runs from outside zone, and Baltimore allows just 3.5 yards per carry on those as well. Chicago's usage, I think the left side dominance of this offense in general is something people don't talk about enough. Gives it a little bit more of like stability as like the yards per carry and the floor is concerned. So I really like rushing plus receiving in this one. The rushing one is also pretty interesting. Adding the receiving gives you a little bit of stability if this game starts to get away from them a little bit. Zay Flowers, again, higher receiving yards and longest reception is something that I've been looking at. The Bears play man coverage at the 5th highest rate, 33%. Flowers is elite versus man. Yards per route run, 3.35 is extremely strong. 29% team target share and the strongest post-buy volume with Lamar. I think he gets a huge bump here. I'm buying Zay Flowers. I'm buying Derrick Henry. I really like the receiving yards and longest reception for Zay in this one. What do we like for touchdowns in this game? From a touchdown perspective, it should be pretty straightforward in this one. Most likely, I've got Derrick Henry. Leads all players in projected touchdowns, 0.76. Expected to handle Baltimore's goal line and short yardage work, of course, with Lamar active. And the Bears have allowed 6.1 yards per carry to running backs before their bye. Still bottom 3 in first down defense. Really like Henry. My long shot is going to be DeAndre Swift. Chicago's offense leaned heavily on the run. Swift owns basically the top explosive run rate, like I mentioned before. And this Baltimore defense has actually been giving up a decent amount of kind of yards per target to the position as well. And if we want to go to like an honorable mention, I did like Zay Flowers a little bit. I mentioned the man coverage splits for him and the vertical roll that we're going to continue to get, the yards after the catch if Lamar plays. So I like Zay Flowers quite a bit as well. I'm also going to give this game an A, and from a confidence perspective, the Ravens are going to control the pace, be efficient. Obviously, Lamar's explosiveness, the Bears are going to be chasing with Swift volume and an occasional Caleb flash is what I'm predicting here. So Chicago's defense, 31st in success rate. Baltimore's offense is number 1 in explosive play rate overall over the last 2 years. So let's get to our next game. We got a couple more to talk through here today. Cowboys and Broncos. So Denver is a 3-point favorite in this one, 50.5 point total yet again. Dallas 31.7 points per game second, and Denver is 17th. Obviously, Dallas has been one of the most explosive offenses. Their defense has also been completely terrible. So we're looking at that. Also plays per game, 10th highest, 6th highest. So we should see a fast-paced, up-tempo, explosive Dallas offense versus a top-tier Denver defense is the main dynamics that we're looking at here. So the running edge, the Cowboys have allowed a 69.3% success rate to backfields. That's the second highest. So really like the Denver running backs in this game. Passing edge, Dallas defense is 30th in points allowed per drive. That shouldn't be any surprise for anyone that's been watching this Dallas defense this year. The Broncos passing volume also has a path. The efficiency, it's really just the Cowboys offense. Third in points per drive. Broncos defense third best and fewest points per allowed. So we basically get like a strength on strength matchup here, which is something that I'm really excited to be paying attention to. In terms of the picks, let's make sure I'm only grabbing one of these. There we go. Okay. Dak Prescott, pass attempts. So anytime that we're going to see a high volume offense against a really good defense, pass attempts is something that always makes a little bit of sense to me. The Broncos lead the league in pressure rate, also fourth in blitz rate. Dak is second in yards per attempt while pressured, dips in yards per attempt when blitz, but still keeps a really high completion rate as well. Also, Dallas has been throwing on a really high percentage of snaps, seventh most, and their games produce a league high combined scoring and yards. So I like attempts for Dak Prescott in this game. On the other side, Bo Nix, passing yards and rushing yards. So the Cowboys allow a league high 19.9 passing points per game, the most passing points per attempt. Dallas also has allowed 5.7 rushing points per game to QBs. That's second worst in the NFL. So like rushing yards, like passing yards for Bo Nix. CeeDee Lamb. Denver plays heavy man coverage. Lamb is the one that is targeted on those routes most often, 35.6% of his routes versus man this season. He can move to the slot to avoid Surtain at times, which is nice as well. And Denver has really been strong against wide receiver one's yardage and touchdowns. So I think I'm going to go with receptions on this, lean into that volume, and I think we kind of get that maybe over the explosiveness in this tough matchup. Courtland Sutton, receiving yards. So it's really just the coverage stuff that really stood out to me here. So against cover 2 and cover 3, Sutton leads Denver in target share and air yards. Dallas is also 28th in points allowed to wide receiver 1 targets and is allowing a high TD rate as well to lead wide receivers. I think that wide receiver 1 production here is basically a given, like the receiving yards for Courtland Sutton. Touchdown-wise in this game, this one was interesting. So most likely, I think I have Javonte Williams here as well. Handles nearly all the goal line work. He's been getting basically 20 touches per game. The Cowboys rank 30th in scoring rate allowed per drive, and they are bottom 5 against running back receptions as well. So like the anytime touchdown for him. My long shot is going to be Courtland Sutton. Like I said, Denver's end zone target share is something to pay attention to, 35.7%, and the air yards as well. And yeah, Dallas just can't defend opposing wide receiver ones this year. It's something we've seen all year. 18% TD rate to wide receiver ones like Courtland Sutton as my long shot in this game. In terms of confidence levels, I'm going to give this one a B+. So I think Dallas pushes through kind of explosiveness, through volume. Denver's going to answer with like some efficiencies from Nix on the ground through the air. Also, I think we really just have to lean into this Dallas defense has been terrible, but this Denver defense has been very good. So they've basically been preventing a ton of points per, I guess this is basically a strength on strength. So that's the only reason I'm giving it a B. If the Broncos end up forcing punts at like a continued league high rate, we could trim up some total drives if they can control the tempo in this one. That's going to be a fun game to watch, though. I'm excited for it. Let's talk about Packers and Steelers, a revenge game for Aaron Rodgers. So Green Bay, 3-point favorites in this one, 44.5 implied total here. The Packers are averaging 60.5 per game. The Steelers, 30th. So this one might be kind of like a slower, high efficiency situation, but Pittsburgh's allowing a league high 38.3 yards per drive. So we could still see some points here. It's just going to be efficient points. In terms of the matchup dynamics, I think that the running edge, the Steelers allow 4.5 yards per carry to running backs, which is 21st. Nothing crazy. Man runs have been a problem, though, at 5.4 yards per carry, and that's something they like to do a lot, which is kind of interesting. Passing edge, Pittsburgh has used man coverage 37.9% over the last 4 weeks. Most in the league. Romeo Doubs is their man coverage beater. Red zone edge, Tucker Kraft, 30.8% of Green Bay red zone targets, tight end 3 this season. Steelers have allowed an 8% TD rate, which is 24th. It's also National Tight End Day on Sunday, so why not Tucker Kraft? Let's talk about picks, touchdown scores, and confidence levels of this game. Sunday Night Football. Jaylen Warren. So there's a couple different directions you can take this Jaylen Warren play. Receptions and rushing yards. I like the higher for receptions Also, you're going to get a little peek on Aaron Rodgers, I guess. I like the higher on receptions. I like the lower on rushing yards. So Green Bay allows the second most running back receptions per game at 5.8. They also allow the fewest running back rush attempts and the fewest running back rushing yards. So the unders on rushing, I really like the higher on receptions for Jaylen Warren. Again, like Aaron Rodgers in this revenge game, Packers defense has allowed the most QB completions per game. They've also allowed the most QB attempts per game. So like completions for Rodgers, I think attempts is interesting as well on the higher side. Rodgers 8th in completion rate at 68.6%. So that's a really strong one. We mentioned Romeo Doubs in this matchup against man coverage. He's also had a pretty high target share over the last 3 games, 22%, 34%, 28%, at least 5 receptions in all 3 of them. He's targeted on 26.7% of his routes against man. Pittsburgh has run the highest man rate over the last 4 weeks. So like receptions for Romeo Doubs. And then Tucker Kraft is my last one. Pittsburgh, 8.1 yards per target allowed to tight ends, which is 24th. The 5th most tight end receiving yards at 67 per game. So Kraft, really strong, obviously, from a yards after catch perspective. Also has that featured red zone role for Green Bay. So like higher receiving yards for Tucker Kraft. Let's talk about some touchdowns, the fun stuff in this game. So I think in this revenge spot, I was tempted to do an Aaron Rodgers rushing touchdown, but most likely I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs. 0.93 projected, leads all players in this game with the highest projected touchdown rate. Of course, he's scored in 16 of his last 18 games, 24 total touchdowns, which is completely insane. Pittsburgh's allows 21st most yards per carry, but they've really struggled against those man blocking units like I mentioned. I think it's pretty much a lock that he gets in. Long shot CeeDee, Tucker Kraft. I mentioned the fact that he's just been capturing just such a large percentage of these red zone targets, and also they've been giving it up from a touchdown perspective, the Steelers to tight ends as well. So Tucker Kraft getting in the end zone, also considered the longest catch on this one just because they've given up so much from a yards per target perspective. So like Tucker Kraft, receiving yards and anytime touchdown. Game confidence, I'm going to give this one an A. The Packers, I think, are going to sustain some drives, attack underneath. The Steelers are going to kind of counter with their running back, receiving, and tight end usage. Green Bay is going to convert a league-high 49% on third down. Very good. Steelers defense 30th by success rate and allows the most yards per drive. So this is an interesting one. I guess the play volume is the biggest risk here, and we'll see if we end up getting the efficiency that we're predicting. Monday Night Football. Chiefs versus Commanders. Chiefs are 10.5-point favorites in this one. No Daniels in this game is the big news item here. So 47.5-point implied total, just 18.5 Washington points in this one. This Chiefs offense looks like maybe the best in the league over the last couple weeks. Opponent pass plays per game, KC allows the fewest. Washington faces the most. So yards per play, Washington's offense is 7th most. So I think in general, we're looking at this pass forward Kansas City team with, I guess, a suppressed overall play volume. So they're going to have to be efficient because they're going to be ahead and all of those things. Washington likely in chase mode the majority of this game. Matchup dynamics. So if we're looking at this running edge, Kansas City faces the 2nd fewest rushes per game, which really caps the volume that we're going to get on the ground. The passing edge, KC leads the NFL in passing success rate over the last 4 weeks, owns the highest neutral game script dropback rate as well. League high 8.3 yards per attempt and the most yards per completion, so we like that. Red zone edge, KC has the largest red zone or score before red zone drive differential in the league, 2nd in scoring rate per drive. So there's going to be some points here for the Chiefs, but let's talk about the players that we like and the picks in this game. Patrick Mahomes, over the last 4 games, 71.3% completion rate, which is completely insane. 7.9 yards per attempt, 11 TDs. Also, the rushing has sustained as well. The offense is mostly just this pass-centric offense in neutral situations, but also highly efficient. And Washington's pass defense sits at the bottom in yards per play and explosive plays again. So I like the attempts and I like the yards for Patrick Mahomes. Rashee Rice, we saw him come back from a suspension and be a big part of this offense right away. 7 of the last 10 games with a heavy target rate. Also, the slot usage is nice as well because Washington is just giving up a ton of points, the 3rd most slot wide receivers, a league high 10.8 yards per target in that alignment as well. Higher receptions, higher receiving yards were the picks that I like the most for Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce, I know it's been ugly at times, and I think he's probably the one that gets hurt the most by Rashee Rice and his dominance, but receptions and receiving yards look too low. To me, he's ran around on 72.5% of dropbacks. He has been relatively efficient, but it's just such a great matchup here. Washington versus tight ends, 9.2 yards per target, 30th in the league, 80% catch rate, higher receptions or receiving yards. I'm leaning more on the receiving yard or the reception side of this one. Marcus Mariota, rushing yards. So the floor is basically supported here, and KC 29th in rushing points allowed to QBs. So they're going to be behind, and they're going to be giving it up to Mariota on the ground. KC is going to pressure a ton as well, which can trigger even more scrambles. This is one of my favorite picks in the entire game. Higher rushing yards for Marcus Mariota. Touchdown-wise in this game. We mentioned the Chiefs, probably the best side to be attacking here. Let's talk about Rashee Rice. He is my highest projected touchdown rate in this game. And I think just in general, coming off that 2-touchdown game, we saw they're going to be using him in really unique ways around the goal line. Washington's allowed the most yards per completion, sits bottom 5 in touchdown rate versus wide receivers. The long shot is going to be JCM for me. Let's get Bill a touchdown. Washington's the only, I guess it's really the only realistic red zone threat that they have. 65 to 75% of the team backfield touches recently. KC's defense allows the fewest opponent plays, but they could concede short field TDs if the game script starts to flip a little bit. So that's the thought process there. That's also the long shot in this game. In terms of confidence, KC throws early and often. I think Washington could be one of those teams that really just racks up a ton of points underneath and also when behind. KC's passing success is the best over the last 4 weeks, and their neutral dropback rate is the highest. Washington's allowed the second most plays of 15 plus yards, and they sit near the bottom in recent points allowed per drive. KC allows the fewest opponent plays, which can kind of trim some of the snap counts a little bit on the Washington side, is a little bit concerning. But overall, I'm going to give this game an A in terms of confidence. That's it for this new format. Let me know in the comments if next week you'd like to see something similar for every game. And if you want to take these picks with us, please support by doing so on DraftKings Pick 6. Use my code HOLKA when you sign up. Best of luck in week 8.